Release the Kraken!
Greetings, fellow game designers. Ron here at Lame Duck Studios, and today we're going to be modeling the ships for our Space Invaders game that we're making in Unity. Now, the technique we're going to use for modeling these is called box modeling, where we take a few image planes, at least two of them, and we create a rough interior box shape that we use to construct our model. Now, if you are one of my students, you can always grab the reference images off of Canvas. If you are just watching for the fun of it, you can download them right out of the description. Now, this is going to be a two-part video. The first one is going to be about modeling the ship. The second one is going to be about doing the UVs and texture. Without further ado, let's jump in and grab a plane. So we're in poly modeling here. Grab a plane. And I'm going to go over to the inputs and set this to 500 width and height. That's going to give me a 5-meter plane this way and that way. And I will set the subdivisions down to 1. Hey, look at that. And I'm going to go ahead and name this one. This is going to be my top reference, so top ref. Now let's go ahead and add on the material, so rendering and then material. I'm going to grab that Lambert. Come over to Lambert 2. Let's go ahead and name this the top reference, so top reference. We can't have the same name, so just make sure we change it slightly. Enter. And then go to color, and then the checker box. And then file, folder. And I'm going to grab my ship's top reference. There it is. I'll hit open. And then 6 to bring up the color. There we go. Now when we bring this in, you'll notice that's facing the wrong way. This is actually good if we are, because we're going to be, the ship's going to be this way in the game. But when you're modeling, it's generally best to model facing down the Z-axis. So what we're going to do is rotate this to face Z. So I'm going to go ahead and hit channel box. I'll bring up my move tool by hitting W. And I need to see which axis I want to rotate around to point to Z. So you can see if I were to rotate this way, I'd be going around the Y axis. So I'm going to go up to my Y rotate, and I'm going to do 180, like so. Let's go ahead and make our other plane. I'm going to go to poly modeling, drop in my plane. This one is going to be my front ref. I'll change the width and height here to 500, and then the subdivisions width and height to 1, like so. And then I will add on the material. Now I do happen to have a different plane here, so make sure you can see that this is a different one. Let's go ahead and set that rendering, and then the material. This is going to be the front ref. Let's grab the color, add that on. Now I will grab my front reference and hit open. And there it is. Now you can see from the front, this should actually be facing the Z-axis. So I'm going to rotate this. First things first, I'm going to set the Y translate back down to 0. And I will set the rotation. You can see I need to rotate around the X-axis. So I'll go ahead and do that. So rotate X, I'll do 90. And now it's facing in the correct direction. And you can see that here. Hey. Now I don't know exactly where that needs to sit, so I'm going to wait until I get the next piece in. Let's make our third plane. Poly modeling, drop in your plane. This one is going to be 500 by 500, and then a subdivision of 1. We're going to call this side ref, and we will load on the material. So rendering, and grab the material. Call this side reference, and then color, file, folder, get my side reference, and I will open that. And here it is. I'm going to go ahead and grab it out of the menu here. And you can see the side reference, it's actually facing the wrong way. So we need this to face the Z-axis, but we also want this to stand up on its side. So first things first, I'm going to rotate it around my Z so that it stands up correctly. So I'll go to my Z rotation, and I will do 90. Very good. And now I want to rotate it so it points to the Z axis. So if I bring up my move tool by hitting W, you can see that my Y rotation is the rotation I need to point to Z. If I type that in here, something weird's going to happen. You see it actually flips down. And the reason that happens is there's two different rotation coordinate systems, actually a few more than that, but two main ones that you're going to run into when you're doing a 3D model. That is the world coordinate system that uses this compass right here. And then there's also the object or local coordinate system that each object has independently. So if I actually hold down the W key and then left click, you can see that we have this little menu here, and these are our various coordinate systems. You can see right now we're in world. If I go up to object and let go, you can see that the compass of this object is actually upside down. So what that means is we need to set this back to 0, like so. And we want to be rotating around the one that's currently pointing in the up direction for this object. And that actually happens to be the x-axis. So I'm going to go to my x-axis and do 180 instead. So now that we have that, we're going to go back into the world coordinate system. Go ahead and hold down the W key, left click, and then go back to world. And you'll see our compass switches, which is great. And now we have to do the big crucial thing, which is to make sure our planes actually line up with each other. So I'm going to go back to my y coordinate here, set that to 0, and we'll have this bit of an overlay. And what we're looking for is to make sure that these all are in line. So you can actually see that our side and front plane are off of each other. So if I go and rotate my front plane, I'm going to rotate that one. Let's see. I'm going to do 90 degrees in the y-axis. And I take my side reference here. I'll go into my side view. And what I want to do is adjust this so that the top of the planes here, or the top of the ship, is on the same line. Then you can see the glass of my top image stops about here. The glass of this one is a little bit too high. So I'm going to lower it down to this line. And now the top of the glass here lines up with here. And you can see the front lines up with the front. These corners should line up pretty close. And the nose of my ship here should be very close to the nose of this one. You see this dark line? This line here lines up with that line. So that's pretty good. So I just want to make sure that these mostly line up with each other. I'm going to set my front plane, the Y rotation, I'll set that back to 90. The Y rotation, I'll set that back to 0. And now that I have them lined up the way that I think I need them, I'm going to move them so they're out of the way. So my top plane, I'm going to move that in the Y translation, -300. So it's out of the way. I'm going to take my front plane. I'm going to move it back -Z, so -300. And then my side plane here, I'm going to move it in the X, -300. So X, -300. So now they should all be out of the way. I have space to work. And let's go ahead and set these to reference. I'm going to grab all three, go down to Layers, and then Create Layer from Selected. And I will set the third box to R. So now I have my image plans. And we see we have like this rough imaginary box shape. Like if I grab all these, it's like a little box that we're going to model our plane in. First thing to do is to save, of course. So File, Save As. And this is going to be Space Invaders Ship. And now let's drop in an object to model. I'm going to drop in a cone here. Looks pretty good. I don't know the size of the cone just yet. I'm going to take the radius, and then out here I'm going to middle mouse, and then drag to the right. And then I'm going to grab the height. I'll do the same thing and drag that out to some distance. And then I'm going to take the subdivision axis and I'll set that down to 4. And that's going to get me this really angular shape, which is really cool because if I look from the top view of my model and I press 6, you can see that I have this very angular, like diamond shape. And that's what I'm going to make first. So real quick, I have my cone here. Let's go ahead and rotate that so it faces the z-axis. So 90 degrees on the x. And there is the front of my cone. Go into vertex mode. I'll move this vertex a little closer. And then these vertices, I'll go ahead and just drag across, and I'll move those back like so. And then I'll use the scale tool, hitting R, and I will middle scale to drag out like so. Very good. Now it's a little hard for me to see what's behind this object, so I'm going to go into my attributes, and then I'll drag the transparency up a little bit so I can see through. Very good. Now whenever you make a change in one of your views, you need to go ahead and make the changes in the other views. So I'm going to go down to my side view, and the first thing I see right here is the top and bottom of our cone. So if I go into vertex mode, I'm going to grab the top, hit W, and I'll drag that down to the top of the window there. Come down to the bottom, I'll drag that to the bottom of the plane, or the ship right there. And then I have the nose, I'll grab that, and I'll drag that down for the nose. And that looks roughly like our shape. Let's check our front view. Again, I'll press 6 to bring up the color. And you can see, just using the two views that we had, we have a very accurate representation of our model. There is one thing that I noticed right here, is these corner pieces right here. They need to go lower. You can see the shadow of the other ship behind it. So I'll just grab them both. So I'll grab this one, hold Shift, grab the other one, press W, and I'll move those down like so. So now, from using our 3 reference images, we have this shape. To make it a little bit easier to see, I'm going to turn the grid off. So right here is the grid button. Let's turn that off. There's the beginning of our shape. I'm going to take the back of this. So I take the back of this. I'm going to grab the multi-cut tool. And all I'm going to do is cut across from this point. So I'm going to left click. And then I'm going to come over to here, left click again, and then right click. That's going to create one edge. And then I go from the top edge, or from the top point here, down through the bottom point, right click, and now I have this point that I can work with. I'm going to hit Q to get rid of my tool, and then select the middle of my vertices, and then W for the move tool, and now I can move this back. And I'll go into my top view. Let me just go ahead and move that back, and I'll get a really good look on that. That looks good there. Go to my side view here. Looks pretty good. And if I go in perspective, I have the rough shape of my plane. Awesome. All I need to do now are the wings. We can make the wings in a few different ways. We can make them out of a separate object, or we can make it out of the current object that we have. To make things simple, I'm going to actually pull them out of the current object that I have, but I'm going to cut the shape into the body here. So to make life really easy, I'm going to go up to Symmetry mode. I'm going to hit the drop down, and I'm going to choose Symmetry X. And then I will go over to my multi-cut tool. So go ahead and grab him. And what I'm going to do is cut in the rough outline of the wing. You can actually see this shadow for the wing here. I'm going to go into my side view, and I'll go ahead and cut this shape in. You can see the shadow kind of comes in right about here, and it gets to this part of the body. I'll go ahead and just click, and I'm going to click here, and I will go all the way up to the back of the ship here. And the reason for that is I have to complete the line. I'm going to go ahead and right click, and that's going to give me a cut. And then I'm going to go and cut from here, this point here, and I cut back to about here on the tail. Go ahead and right click. It gets me a cut. And then the shadow runs just under here back to this point. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that dot. I'm going to run back and connect to here. Okay. Now I am left with a bit of an end-gon from this point up. So I'm going to go ahead and just click here. And I'm going to continue this cut up through the canopy right about there. Okay. That does give me a bit of an awkward slice. You see that? But this is going to very quickly become our wing. I'm going to hit Q. And I'm going to make life easier by going into object mode And so we don't see crisscrossing lines. I'm going to take the transparency and bring that down. So now you can see this is the cut that we made. This is the section for our wing, and this is the top of the ship here. So I'll go into face mode. I'm going to grab this face and this one. Again, I do have symmetry on, so if I grab one side, it does grab the other. I'm going to press the extrude button right here. And then I'm going to get this option to pull out. And you can see I have one side or the other. I'm actually going to hit W and get my regular move tool. And I'm going to pull out toward the x-axis like this. And now I want to merge this side down. So the easiest way to do that is to do merge to center. I'm going to go up to edit mesh, come down to merge to center. And that's going to collapse that into my wing shape. See that? Pretty cool. Let's go to our top view. And we have our wings kind of drawn out this way. I'm going to use my vertex tool. I'm going to grab this part of the wing right here. I'm going to move that out to the edge. And grab this part. And move that out to this edge. Let me turn my transparency. Go all the way to the end of the list here by holding down. And then I'll drag the transparency up so I can see what I'm doing. And you can see the shape of the wing here. I need to add a cut into here and a cut into there. I'll go take a look at the model here. Let's bring the transparency down. I need to cut on the back of the wing, like a little W shape. I need one point here, and I'll bring that up to here and right click. I'll do that again on the bottom, so I'll click here, go underneath to here. And then I need one more cut like that, one about here to the corner, and then right click, and then underneath, again from that same point here. I'm going back to the corner like so. And now I can get this little W shape and go into my top view. Let me bring up the transparency, so go to object mode. I'll bring the transparency up. You can see that I have enough material. Go to vertex mode. I can grab this one, get my move tool by hitting W. I'll go up here. And then this one, I can go down here. And you can see I actually need a couple more cuts. So if I put that right there, it gives me a good spot to cut. I can cut here and cut there. So I'll get my multi-cut tool. I'll do a cut here, and then a cut there. I'll grab this one, and I'll move that into this spot. I'll grab this one, and I'll move that into this spot. Now, I do have n-gons, so I have to solve those. Let's turn the transparency back down. I'll go to object mode, bring the transparency down. And you can see here's my n-gon. I got 1, 2, 3, 4. Technically it's 4, but that's actually a warped face, so I want to fix that. I'm going to grab this one, and I'll go up to the corner, and then right click, grab this one, go up to the corner, right click. I'll do it on the bottom. And then this one here, right click. That looks like the rough shape of the ship. So, hey, the only thing we're missing now is the window. And you can see I have this window right here. Now we can really put that on using a texture. So I actually don't have to model that. We can just paint that on when we do our texture mapping. We do have this problem with the n-gon here. So we should solve this to the nose. So I'm going to take this point right here, and I'm going to bring that to the nose, and then right click. That way we have a complete, that way we don't have a giant end gun right here. Make sure we have the correct points. 1, 2, 3, 4. It looks right. Okay, so there is the rough shape of the plane, and you can see it matches. And then for the window, we'll just paint that on when we do our UVs. All right. To clean up this little dark spot in the back, let's go to Object Mode. And what we're going to do is reset the normals that are on these spaces. Because right now, some of the normals are bent, so we're getting some shadow. I'm going to go up to Mesh Display. If you don't see that, make sure you're in Modeling. So Mesh Display, we're going to go down to Set to Face. And then you'll see now it is how we intend it to be. Fancy. We're going to go ahead and pause the video here. Make sure you save your work. In the next one, we're going to do the UVs and set up the texture. Okay? And I shall see you next time. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my channel. Misty and I both thank you. If you enjoyed that video just watched, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe. Also, we're at 1,400 subscribers. Woo! If you have any suggestions for future videos, go ahead and leave them down in the comments. And if you want to keep up with me on Twitter, it's BruceRF1. That's also in the description. And if you want to support the channel, make it easier for me to make content for you, check out some of my merch or one of my books. But yeah, all that, again, is in the description. Check it out, and I shall see you next time.